Hello and welcome to the Friday webinar. We are on with Lisa Bono. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi.
And we're going to do another episode of past and present. And today is the do's and the don'ts. So this will be I'm going to imagine, well, I know you have a PowerPoint and I can't wait to see it. But yeah, and we got Michiko behind the scenes. She's tag teaming with Brenda today. She's taking over the behind the scenes control. And so there we go. Woo! And if you're just joining us, yeah, let us know where you're coming in from. Weather reports, anything, what's going on in your area of the world. I would like to see where everyone is joining us. How is it where you are, Lisa? We'll start that off real quick while let's see where people are coming in from today.
It is cold. Uh, it's been going down to like 39 and 40 at night. And, I guess my blood's thinning from being a Southerner now. And, I'm in long sleeves today because I just can't get warm. I already have the heat on, so I'm 73 in the house. So,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it's chilly. And when we've been in a drought, so we're waiting to get some rain that'll coming in next week. So that'll be good.
Okay. It's 75 and sunny in my neck of the woods in California. I mean, it's a gorgeous day. I'm sure we'll get weather eventually. Maybe it'll rain sometime. We need that. But yeah, and then so you have a fireplace, right? Do you have a fireplace?
Um,
People in the
no,
Okay.
I have a fake fireplace.
Hey, fire.
Um, Fake fireplace. So we had one in New Jersey, and it was fantastic just to flip that little button and get some extra heat. But when we moved down here, a lot of the houses didn't have it. So I actually bought a mantle in New Jersey through like Marketplace or something, and it's a marble fireplace. My husband was not happy because he had to move this massive fireplace. It took like 8 people, but I have that here, and then I got like a fake thing that lights up in it.
Oh, that's cool. The reason I was asking is like if you're just firing up I do not have a fireplace, but I remember correctly that if you have a fireplace to make sure that it's bird safe, like cleaned out with all the suit, right? There's like an annual cleaning. People who have them might be able to relate to that maintenance involved. Make sure it's
Yes.
make sure that
And
it's safe for your birds, right?
yes, in one
The
of
first
my
time you
houses,
fire it up.
actually two of my houses, when I grew up with my father, which we had birds, or I had birds, and then my first marital home, the main source of heat was a fireplace and or a wood burning stove. So there is some maintenance that goes on with it, and you have to add some humidity back to the environment. But I probably spent 10 years of my life in New Jersey with just a fireplace or a wood burning stove.
Oh, wow. Wow. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, looks like we got a pretty good turnout today. Let's see what the do's and don'ts are. I'm
Okay.
curious what parts of the list I fall on. Am I on the do's part or am I on more on the don'ts part? So I'm eager to learn. So let's see what we got
All
going
right.
here.
Okay. Let me try to get some things down here. Okay. Excuse me 1 second. All right. Always got to move things around when we get on here. Okay. I want to welcome everybody to this do's and don'ts webinar. This was kind of difficult for me to do only because there are so many do's and so many don'ts. And I mean, I've learned them through the years as well. I mean, we all do things that we realize, later on that probably wasn't the best. So it's definitely not here to shame anybody. Again, because I've done it myself. So we need to go over them. And maybe next time the outcome will be a little bit different because you'll think about it a little bit differently after seeing this. So again, welcome to everybody who's here. So first thing we have to talk about is, you see all these cute little videos on the internet. And then, especially now with AI, I mean, my mailbox is inundated with this Amazon who is having conversations with police officers that are completely AI, but people who don't know don't realize it. So right away they think, all right, well, this bird is actually having an intellectual conversation for minutes with these cops. And that's not reality. So, and then people run out and they go to a pet store right away and they just buy whatever they see speaking, thinking that's the way it's going to be. However, you don't want to do that. You want to do your research first to see what species fits into your household. The reason you want to do that is because we're looking at longevity with this bird in your house. And if you run out, and I mean, I've known a lot of people that, you know, have watched a couple videos online of these excellent African greys speaking, even parakeets, going out and speaking really well. And then people go out to buy them and they realize that's not the way it is, and then they want to get rid of the bird because the bird disappointed them. Well, that's a shame, because really the person should have did a little bit more research. Not only that, I've seen people go in to buy conures and the store convince them to buy macaws. So first time owners not knowing what they're getting into with little kids or a newborn now with a macaw that, you know, is going to be a little bit loud and may for the first couple of years with a baby macaw, and then the baby in the house, you know, maybe making too much noise, stuff like that. You have to really think about it, because again, people see all this stuff, they go out and they buy, you know, impulse, and then we have issues like this. Don't give, when you go out and get your bird, whether it's an older bird or a baby, don't give the bird more attention that you really plan on doing throughout your life, because your life changes, okay? So if you go out and you have this baby and, you know, you come home from work and you're spending 5, 6, 7 hours with this bird, and that's all you do every night, and then the newness wears off and you start going back on the computer or watching TV and that bird's sitting in the cage, that's not fair to the bird. You want to build a little bit of independence. So if you know you can only really do 2 or 3 hours that are, you know, are hands-on, that's what you do. And then you have them maybe out and you interact with them without necessarily picking them up and holding them. You create a little bit of independence. Do try to remain consistent with a routine. Some people think routine is a bad word. It's not. I mean a loose routine. The bird needs to know it's going to get up in the morning, it's going to come out, it's going to eat, it's, you know, you're going to be home, and, you know, that's what I mean by a routine. You know, I'm not saying, you know, uncover the bird at 8, feed him at 8:30, take him out at 5. You know, that's not what I mean. A loose routine is good. It gives them security and it makes you focus on what you need to do to be part of the bird's life. You don't want to bring your bird outside unprotected. People think their birds aren't going to fly away because the birds love them. It always upsets me. You know, I have a bird page and I am constantly sharing lost birds, and it breaks my heart. In fact, about 15 minutes before I came online, I just saw one's lost in the next neighborhood from me. So I wrote to them to see if I could be of any help. Unfortunately, the bird got out 2 days ago and it's heavily wooded here. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing the next couple days. I might be tramping through the woods trying to help this person find her bird. Do be aware of your environment. You cannot control the great outdoors, even if you think you can. Another bird was just lost because somebody was outside and car backfired, bird took off. Somebody just had their bird stolen out of a car. You have to be aware of what's around, what the potential dangers are, and how to minimize them. So around here, we have too many hawks. So my guides used to go out in a leash, you know, a harness, I should say. And after seeing the hawks coming so close, and we also have coyotes here. I think it's coyotes. Yeah, because we can hear them at night. So there's too many things out there I can't control. So they actually go out in a little cage or the little pack of bird. This way I can control, you know, if something comes around, I can grab that carrier and I could be in the house and protect them from anything. So the majority of the birds you're going to see are going to be outside unrestrained, and the birds take off because they're trying to get a pretty picture. Unfortunately, within the last week, when I was doing, getting this webinar together, these were all new lost birds. There were 10 times this amount, but these, I wanted to show you that it's every species, all over. So you have to be careful. Next is don't allow other animals around your birds. Now, backstory here, this is my little African gray stuffed animal, Emma 2. And she was deployed to Iraq with my husband. And what we didn't know is a lot of the soldiers actually packed stuffed animals, or their children sent their stuffed animals along with their soldiers. And so my husband kind of kept his, a little hidden. Maybe he was a little embarrassed of it until he saw, his roommate had a little chameleon. So that's why I chose this picture. Don't allow different species. Be aware, again, of any perceived dangers. We see it all the time on the internet. This is not reality, okay? It's just not. Does anybody have a guess which is probably going to be one of the biggest killers of birds when they're mixed in a household? Put it in the chat. So, again, this is reality. That's reality.
Dogs.
Predatory drift is real, and it can happen in an instant. It has nothing to do with how aggressive your dog is, or how sweet your dog is, or how old or young. It's strictly instinctual and hardwired prey drive. It's how they evolved. So while you might work with some trainers that can kind of quell some of what's going on, you have to be aware of it because it can happen in a second. So this was one of the birds that sadly passed away because of the dog that's in the picture. So you never know. It could happen in 1 year, 1 week, 10 years. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go up to the chat real quick to see if anybody. Okay, so dogs, cats, all right. Actually, when they're housed together, one of the worst, I would say, kills is going to come from the ferret. So you have to be careful. I know it's not a typical popular pet, but I do know quite a few people who had them, and those things were just, they're hardwired to do it. Not that they're mean, they're hardwired to do it. Don't mix big birds with small birds. Now we have some gigantic Godzilla-sized parakeets in there, and we have some pink conures. So obviously, this is AI, and you do have to be careful of the different sizes, okay, beak-wise. You don't want to put a macaw next to a parakeet, it may not end well. So they can be in the same room, but they need their own stuff. You don't want to have them, climbing on each other's cage. It's just not safe. So do protect and supervise all of your birds, regardless of species. Now, you can see my guys, they're all the same species. Okay, Sterling's probably just out of the picture somewhere. But we have Sammy, Abby, Sydney, and Emma. Emma's the closest. Same species. They can't get along. So they all have their own trees to come out on. I have to keep them separate so they can't really climb on each other's cages, because Abigail, she would travel wherever she could go. Emma doesn't like to share things, so she would be very protective of her tiny little tree and actually go over and bite anybody that came near it. Sydney would fly off his tree to go after anybody, and Sam would just sit there and kind of watch in the corner. Sam would kind of run away if somebody came. The other day, I didn't have Sterling's tree far enough from Sammy's tree, and he actually climbed up there. She leaned back to try to get away, and he bit her foot. So that's all on me. Here I am talking about keeping protected, and I didn't catch that, so that's my fault, and you have to be very careful. Don't share cages. Now, I know there's some countries that do, promote this, and they like to keep the males and the females. Now, if you have two that you want to breed and they get along, okay, that's fine. I have found through my years, my parakeets got along, so I could have a bunch of them in the cage. My cockatiels got along. The parakeets were actually a little bit more aggressive than the cockatiels were. Once we got past that, nobody wanted to be near each other, and everybody always had their own spot. So you want to make sure they have their own comfortable spot that's just theirs, and no one else can get in it or go near it. This way, if they're in it, somebody climbs over on it, they're not losing a toe, or, they're not, biting their beaks. So own cages is the best if you can. Don't cut your parrot's sleep short. Now, this is very important because there's so many different things that could happen if your bird's not getting enough sleep. This is my sleep room. My Gray Way followers have seen this before, and everybody's got their own cage. Everybody gets covered at night. This is on the opposite side of my house than where I sleep. I could close the blinds there. I have curtains now that it's getting colder. I close them as well. I have a little baby monitor in there that I could hear them at night in case they need me, but it's in a quiet part of the house where I can keep the environment quiet and dark for them to go in and be able to sleep uninterrupted. My guys usually get about 10 hours in their cages to sleep. Are they sleeping that entire time? No, they're down there scratching like chickens, or they're, chewing on their toys, but I'm giving them the opportunity to get in there and sleep. I know I'm crabby if I don't get enough sleep. So do allow for adequate and quiet sleep. Don't forget they need to bathe. All right. I hear a lot when I'm doing consultations. A lot of people right away, they'll be very concerned that they've had this bird for 2 or 3 weeks and they can't get it in the bath. You have to figure out a way. That's not the priority when they come to your house. Okay. Yes, we eventually want to get them there, but we want them to acclimate to the house, get used to what's going on, especially if it's an older parrot and it doesn't have any idea what's going on. It's not an empty shell like a baby would be. So, you want to try to get them used to the environment. Then you could start trying to figure out how they need to take a bath. Do allow time to figure out the bird's preferred bathing method. Another thing I want to make sure that everybody understands, and I just posted it again, that you don't want to give daily baths. You want to make sure that these birds are able to dry out their feathers in between baths. It's been recommended 1 to 2 times a week, no more than that. Okay, because they can get mold that forms on their feathers. I have to look more into that to get the specifics, because offhand, don't remember. I believe it was at one of the conferences I was at, and I have the slides to back it up. But right now, that is what I'm repeating from a veterinarian. So make sure that you let them dry. And this was Abigail. She loved her baths. She would high dive into that little corral bowl. That was her preferred method. She passed away a year and a half, a little bit more than a year and a half ago. And I would say recently is the first time I've been able to get the birds to want to voluntarily go back in their bowl. I'll sit there and I'll have the vacuum going. I'll have the radio going. I'll go in there and try to make some noise. I'll sit there and play with the water. And they just didn't seem interested, because Abby was the one who always started it. And then it was a flock activity. But I was very happy to see for the first time that everybody was back in there bathing like they should, versus we going in a shower or into the sink. don't feed seed-only diets. Now, there are a lot of healthy seeds, okay? But based on what we've learned in the last 50 years, there are better nutritional things to feed. Seed diets are not formulated with all their vitamins and their minerals that the birds need to thrive in their environment. So you do offer various foods such as veggies, pellets, and you can use a limited amount of quality seed. Now, when I've been through to my veterinarians through the years, instead of writing down what I use, I bring a sample. Okay, so it's everything I use mixed in there together, with the exception of the veggies at night, that I can give a picture of. But this way they can see exactly what I'm using. And I do use and have used all these years a good quality safflower seed that I add a little bit in to their mix. It's probably a tablespoon. It's not much, but my veterinarians have always been able to see this, and nobody ever told me I was doing wrong or doing bad. So you just need to make sure that you're offering the correct things to keep your bird healthy. Don't use a brand because someone on the internet said it was the best. There's a couple things you have to think about here. You have to research who makes the food, what ingredients are, and if it's a regulated company and or business. Okay, there are some people that make stuff out of their house. Nobody's been really watching it or regulating it or testing it. You can only go by what that person is saying, especially if they're making mixes and blends that they're not telling you what is in there. You do have to be careful. The diet that you're using, has it been backed up for decades by science and tested for quality regularly? Now, I do have a blend for some of my clients that request it, and I have no problem telling them exactly what is in that blend so they could research it to make sure that what I'm using is what they want to use for their bird. And that came because I had people ask me if I can make something instead of buying, 8 pounds of this, 4 pounds of that, if I can mix it together for them and send them 4 pounds, they're happy with that. This way it stays nice and fresh, and it's all named products that have been around for a very long time, that have been regulated and quality tested on a regular basis, so that people can look. And you have to make sure, again, is it made in someone's basement? You just never know. That's why you don't go on a brand that someone is bragging about on the internet. Don't give up on fresh foods, okay? That includes veggies. So you want to make sure you do serve them in various ways to get your bird interested. I have a lot of people say, well, I tried sweet potato, or I tried pepper, or I tried this, and they didn't like it. Well, okay, so how'd you try your sweet potato? Did you just cook it and give it to them? Did you try it with a little bit of pepper? Did you try it with a little bit of cinnamon? Did you mix it maybe with a little bit of applesauce? You have to be creative. Did you put it on a skewer? Did you put it in a bowl? Did you give it to them in the cage, out the cage? You have to figure out how to get your bird interested. And again, eating is a flock activity. So you can always sit there, if you're trying to get your bird to eat something and they don't like it, you can try having them sitting next to you and you eating it and pretend like you're ignoring them, because chances are if you're ignoring them and eating it, they're going to want it. So at least then you can offer it that way. You do have to be aware of what is safe and what is not. I see an avocado in that picture there. If I saw that before, I wouldn't have used it. But anyway, you have to make sure you get your bird interested. There's so many different ways you can offer it to them. I've seen a lot of people take like a little pepper and then they stuff all the food in the pepper. I know people that use dehydrated foods, and they'll, reconstitute it and warm it up, and then they'll do the same thing. Or with my girls, I would put it on a little plate, and Sammy and Abby would play this pull the plate game where You know, they didn't want the plate in front of them, but they'd steal the other plate from the other bird, and this went on. I'd have to stand there and tell them no, to sit there and stop playing their game and eat. But, you know, that got them interested, and they look forward to eating. Don't offer foods blindly. This is a prime example. You got your avocado, you got your mushrooms, and you got your onions. So you want to make sure that you research and ask questions. Okay. I had somebody text me this week to ask me if it was safe to use a specific vegetable they got. And it's a good thing they did. So you want to make sure you research and ask questions. Don't just offer one type of food. Oh, there's the girls. There's Sammy and Abigail, you know, probably me telling them not to pull the plate back and forth, but that's what they would do. The reason I say just don't offer one type of food, meaning one brand, maybe. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but having a storefront, I knew there was a lot of times that the stuff would come in, or you wouldn't be able to get stuff because they were out. There was some stuff that was recalled. And again, if you're using a brand name product that is, again, being researched and tested regularly, you know about these recalls. They come out to the pet store owners, and it's our responsibility to tell you. So I would have to call people up and tell them what was going on. Haven't had one in quite some time, but if you are offering one food that is out of stock, guess what? You're in trouble. If you're offering one food that has now been recalled, guess what? You're in trouble. So if you're using a couple different products, you're good. So for instance, if you're using Lafeber's products, they have their senior berries, they have their pellet berries, they have their pellets, they have their NutriBerries. So there's 4 different types of product right there. So that's what I mean. If you use 2 of the products, and say, for instance, they're out of their tropical fruit NutriBerries, which is like a favorite, you can go to the garden veggie, or you could try the pumpkin. So your bird is still getting what it's used to, what it's like, and you're able to, you know, offer different things that way. You want to make sure that what you're offering has nutritional value in case one of the companies out of stock or has a recall, like I mentioned. There was one recall. They had too much vitamin D, I believe, in the product, probably maybe 12, 15 years ago. And the problem was, now everybody that was just using that one particular product now had to watch their bird to see if there was any, I think it was kidney issues. And a lot of birds were going to the vet. So again, if you're using something else, you have a 50% chance versus 100% chance. And always keep in mind that a poor diet and an unhealthy bird, not enough sleep, and overstimulation, especially right now with African grays going into the little hormonal season, can lead to behavioral problems as well. Don't say your bird doesn't like toys. You have to offer, and do offer, various textures, shapes, and colors to see what catches your bird's attention. So this is Emma. This is actually a toy that is more geared towards a conure. I took off all the unsafe, in my eyes, pieces that she couldn't break, but she likes smaller toys. Now, the only large toy she likes is going to be a large pinata by Planet Pleasures. And she likes the large one, but don't give her the medium and don't give her the extra large, because she's not going to go near it. So you have to really play around with different textures, sizes, to see what they like. And you would be surprised that your bird does like toys. Now, if your bird's chewing on your cabinet, or, you know, chewing on your antique furniture, chances are it doesn't have the right toys that it's being offered that they like to destroy. If you have a super hard toy, or maybe just a piece of plastic, all right, it's fun to hit around, but that's about it. If you have something that's really hard, okay, you have a parakeet, you're giving them wooden beads. All right, you're going to see them a lot on the internet being sold, you know, the little wooden beads. They are too hard for a parakeet to play with, so they're not going to. So right away you think your parakeet doesn't like toys. No, try some balsa, try some shredding stuff. You would be surprised at the different things that are out there. Don't get a cage that's too big to handle. You always hear people saying bigger, better. Yes, I agree. As long as it's something you can maintain. Okay. I know people that have cages like this in their house. How do you properly wash it? Maybe they have a routine. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. My guys have to have their cages go out now to be power washed for the winter. You know, I've had a lot of cages in the store that were just too big, that had to be taken apart to roll through the door, to get outside and clean. That's not something you're going to maintain. You're going to strip your screws. You know, we're all getting older. It's getting harder for some of us, especially me, now getting everything outside to do it. So I need help. I have to rely on other people to try to help me get it done. So I can't imagine this monstrous cage that I have to break apart to get outside, to put together, to wash it, to take it apart, to bring it back in the house, to put it back together again. You know, if your bird is in the cage a lot, you might want to go for a dome top cage because it gives them a little bit more, you know, room in there versus a play top. Play tops are great if you're limited on space and you need both, but you do want to get a good size cage. They want to be able to stretch their wings. They need to be able to climb around in there. They need to be able to flop around. But again, monstrous cages that people are told to go get, very hard to maintain and clean. Don't use the perches that necessarily come with the cages. Some of the cages have decent perches, but you'd be surprised that some of the cages actually have metal. Especially you see that a lot overseas. They have the metal perches, which are no good. And most cages come with a dowel. So it's a basic dowel that you can buy at Home Depot if you need to replace them. And those might be good for like the food dishes because you can replace that easily and more often, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to do that. But there are natural branches. There's a safe wood list, and you know they make all different kinds of perches that are good, and it helps maintain the bird from, you know, with their with their nails, with different diameters for exercising their feet, climbing around and gripping. You want to make sure there's a bunch of different things. Just imagine if you wore the same sneakers every single day. So make sure you get different size perches that are out there. Don't let a bird languish in a cage for days, weeks, months, or years. We're actually, I'm trying to deal with somebody right now that has openly told me their African gray has been cage bound for about 10 years, which is extremely sad because that's not how it should be. You know, if a bird doesn't want to come out of his cage for a few days, what I would suggest is start making a little log to see if you see any different behaviors. Maybe the bird isn't feeling well. Maybe if it's an older bird, arthritis might be kicking in. That might be something that you want to log to discuss with your veterinarian and maybe want to go in, because if it comes out every day and all of a sudden it's not wanting to, there is something. So it might be environmental, might be, you know, a new couch or something like that that's spooking them and something you could work with, or it could be an illness that's coming on. So, you know, then that turns into weeks and then people just leave them in there for months or years. It's very sad. You would not do that to a dog. Okay, these birds are not really meant to be in cages, so do not allow them, don't allow it to stay in the cage for years on end. Reach out to someone that can help you create a better or maybe safer environment, coming back to maybe something the bird's afraid of, that your bird can thrive in. We owe it to them for that. And look, you can see that one bird in a cage, doesn't even have perch. So don't encourage perch potatoes, and that's my Harley there. And man, he was the biggest perch potato you ever seen. He had his, feathers to fly, never wanted to. He didn't really walk around. He just, wanted to be carried everywhere and put somewhere and happy to stand there. So we don't want to encourage that because they can, the body's not designed for that. There's things that can happen because of that. Um, Okay, so wait a minute, no bird showed up in there. Hold on, let me try playing it again. There we go. Now there's a bird. So that is Sammy flying to her tree, and we would do that every day. And Sterling would fly to his cage, Abby would fly to her tree, and Sammy would fly to her tree. Emma can't fly with her twisted neck. And Sydney, we have to keep him a little baby clipped because he is aggressive with the other birds. See, again, same species, but I think he was dropped on his head as a baby. So, that's what we would do. Don't put your head in the sand about diseases. You need to learn all you can, wherever you can, to prevent whatever you can. And this is a great plug for next week. No, actually November 14th. I thought it was next week, but I'm a couple weeks off here. Dr. Lamb is going to be talking about infectious disease testing. And I see so many people, if their birds die, they don't have a necropsy. I am guilty of that myself in the past. We need to know what is going on. If it's a sudden death and you have other birds, you should be having a necropsy to see if it's anything that could have been brought into the house and affect your other birds. If you're getting a new bird, you want to make sure that they're not coming from an environment that's going to carry in a disease. So you have to be aware of all the different lectures. There's a lot of lectures online. So there's no excuse not to know what is going on. And again, make sure you tune in for Dr. Lamb. There's a lot of good webinars on Lafeber's YouTube channel, explain a lot of these diseases. Go back, take a look, and learn. Don't run to the internet for advice. This can include veterinary advice, behavioral advice, and nutritional advice. Now, I realize there's a lot of places overseas or more rural areas that may not have veterinarian near them, that they need help. And I understand that. And there are veterinarians that will consult with your veterinarian to help get the correct diagnosis, the medications, whatever you need. But if you're just going online to say that my bird broke its beak off, what do I do to help it? That is, that needs to see a vet. Okay, it might need pain meds. You're going to have to feed it a little differently. If you have a heavy bird that is clipped and he tries to fly and lands on, tile floor, that's how a beak can break that easily. So behavioral advice, there's a lot of instant experts out there. You have to be careful of what's being said. We see it every day going online. Same thing with the nutritional advice. Don't go buy a food because someone online is promoting it and or getting favors or extras from a store for promoting it. Okay. Do your own research, because this is pretty much how I feel every time I go on the computer. Okay. There are people out there to help. And what you want to do is, if you're looking for behavioral advice, it's the IABC. And I'm part of this group. There are wonderful people in there from every division that is willing to help you. We have a couple of them on the webinar today as well. And we're just not instant experts. We've studied this. We've taken classes. We go to conferences. We have to get CEUs every year. Or we have to have a combined grand total of CEUs for every 3 years in order to requalify. So it's not just us putting a shingle on a building and saying, hey, come to me, I'm an expert. These are some of the things that the IABC has you go through, and the consultants need to be skilled in 7 core areas of competency. So we have to know assessment skills, general knowledge, and application of learning of science, species-specific knowledge, me with the grays, consulting skills, general knowledge of animal behavior, biological sciences related to animal behavior, and ethics. So behavior is made up of just one facet. So like I said, if you need to, it's iabc.org. It's down here in the corner, left-hand corner. This is where you want to go. There's people all around. I'll show you a map of us. This happens to be one of my ads that I have out. You can see on here, I list aggression, jealousy. Okay, so those 2 are labels. Screaming and biting are 2 observable behaviors. So when you talk to somebody about what your bird may be doing, jealousy, describe jealousy. What does jealousy look like? So keep that in mind when you're talking to your consultant. And these are the IABC parrot people covering the United States. So there's not a lot of us, but there are some very good, experienced people out there that can help you with what you need. And one thing coming from me working with people, don't use the word but, because that is an excuse to allow a behavior to continue. So if I'm working with somebody and I say, well, this is what we need to do, and they come in and say, but my bird likes it. Okay, let's try it this way, but my bird likes it. Well, let's try it this way and see if we can work on that. So that's just something that when I hear the word but, kind of close my eyes, and then I'll usually use it but right back because I'm making an excuse back to them. Don't forget about the respiratory system versus ours. And do join me for next month's reminders. We're doing the Gray Way Holiday Safety Review, and we're going to talk about this. Birds breathe a lot differently than we do, and a lot of things that are in your home can bother them, and people don't realize this. So you have to be, again, conscious of your environment. And don't wait for an illness to find a veterinarian. I have been so fortunate through my years that these people in here that you see listed have helped me, and a few of them have actually saved my birds' lives. So this has been some of my team through the year. I'm very grateful for all of them for what they have done for me and my flock. Do your research and find an avian veterinarian, not a dog and cat vet. You need somebody that specializes in what you have. You would not go to an elephant vet for your son or daughter. Don't wait for directions to the vet until it's an emergency. Do print the directions out, place them out where you can see them, and I suggest you take a dry run. When your bird's in need, it's not the time to figure out where help is. Now, when we move down here, I'm in a whole different, state, and I have to drive to another state to have my bird taken care of. So, and I have to go towards a city. And the same thing when I was in New York City, I was in Jersey, having to go to New York City for help. It's not the time for a country bumpkin like me to then try to drive into a metropolitan city to try to find out where my vet is because my bird is ill or something happened. So I would take dry runs to figure out where it was, so I knew where it was and where I needed to turn when I got there. What you also should do is print everything out and place it where people can see it. I have it inside my cabinets in my bird room. When people open it up, it has my vet information. It has step-by-step directions in case they don't have a navigation system in their car. So, this way it's 1, 2, 3, they get them there. Don't wait to figure out how you will pay for vet care. Do research and prepare. So they have care credit, which is usually at most veterinarians' offices. You do have to make sure that you are aware of the interest rate. It's 0%, I think, for a certain set amount of time. Might be 6 months, 4 months, I don't remember. But then it goes up to something like crazy, like I think back when I had to use it, was like 23 or 26%. So you have to be aware of that. So whether you have a credit card of your own that is specifically sitting there and is nothing but for bird care, or you have insurance. I do have insurance. There's a couple places that are now, you have Nationwide, you have, Nationwide is who I have. There's been some controversy going on there, but it's who I've had until we could see who else can cover them. We have MetLife that is now covering birds in some state. And I just saw an advertisement for Progressive, but that might be dog and cat. So for a very small monthly fee for your avian friend, you can get a policy that will help you if you need it. Now, when one of my birds was sick, I was going into New York City every day. He was there for 6 weeks, and my bill ended up being $7,000. I racked up all my credit cards. I racked up care credit, and it came to a point where I could not physically come up with another dime, and I had to ask one of my veterinarians to please take my bird so he wouldn't die. That didn't end up happening, and bird ended up passing away anyway. But after that, I started looking into health insurance for my birds to help me, because it was just something I didn't know about. I wasn't prepared for. Don't expect your parrot to understand strange things in their environment. Do introduce things slow. Desensitization. Yeah, I can have said that word. Desensitization. This means, introduce things slowly into the environment. So through the years, I have had Christmas trees that I put up in my bird room. I started out very small. Of course, Emma would be the most frightened of it by her behavior. And now I actually have a full-size tree that I'm able to get in there because they get used to it. So if you come walking through with a box and your birds aren't used to that, you talk to your birds and maybe shield them a little bit from this box as you're coming through, or the laundry basket, or whatever it may be that the birds are freaked out about. Realize that they're not used to seeing this. They're not going to see it where they're from, and they need to know it's okay. So just introduce things slowly. My guys aren't used to kids because we don't have kids. So if I have my neighbor or the great grandkids come in from my husband's side, they can't just go running into the bird room because you're going to have my birds just screaming and thrashing. So usually we walk them in very slowly. The kids stay back, and little by little, I'm able to move them in. So, they can be within maybe 2 feet of the cage and the birds aren't freaked, and, the kids are doing fine. Don't encourage nesting behavior, especially this time of year with African grays. That's Miss Emma on my couch trying to figure out where she's going. Do try to keep the environment bright, natural light, birds off the floor, and be careful where you touch. That's all part of whatever, mating season you have going on with your species. You do have to be careful. You don't want to encourage this because it can lead to more problems. Don't let good behavior go unnoticed or ignored, okay? You want to reinforce behaviors you want to continue. When my birds do something, whether it's step up or fly to their tree or, eat their dinner, whatever it is, I always say, good boy, good girl. Now, I know with my species, they respond very well with verbal praise. Your Amazons are going to do really good with food. So, different species have different, all birds have different rewards that they like and will continue to work for. Some do better with others. My guys are not interested in food if I give them as a treat like that. They'd rather have maybe a tickle or, a good girl. So you want to make sure you reinforce the behaviors you want to continue. Don't let a bad behavior linger. Do analyze the behavior, create a functional assessment, create a plan to extinguish unwanted behavior, and reinforce the good. And this is not acceptable, okay? the bird, this is actually half of the cartoon that I saw, but it kind of broke my heart and I had to put it in there. The bird was actually singing and saying, "I'm loved, I'm happy," and the owner doesn't understand what's going on, and she's screaming, "Shut up." So this is never acceptable. The birds don't know what that means, and it's not going to work. So for a functional assessment, these are quick steps of what you need to do, okay, that'll help you go over some of the behaviors, and hopefully some extinguish the bad, see what plans you can come up with to work with the bird. Don't reinforce behaviors you don't want in your home, and don't offer a reward. Okay. A lot of people will be working with their birds, for instance, stationing them on a perch. So little increments. Okay. So the bird comes 2 inches. Okay. You give them a little reward. 4 inches the next day reward. Okay. But if the bird is still staying on that one spot and not moving at all, don't give in and give the cashew, because the bird learns that I don't need to do anything and I'm still going to get the reward. Why learn a behavior or anything good when you're rewarded for everything? Same thing when they're, with kids, you want to guide them and get them to do the right thing in life. And, if they're just going to sit there and scream in the supermarket and throw tantrums, and you're offering them candies and cookies and this to make them be quiet, they're learning that, screaming, get some candies and cookies. So you have to figure out, our parrots are very smart and they understand what's going on. Don't forget to make arrangements for when you're no longer here to care for your birds. I'm not sure how much time I have left here, but a quick synopsis of this is, do reach out to people to find out what type of place, do reach out to people. Find out what type of place your bird will thrive in, a sanctuary, a private home with relatives, or maybe even your veterinarian. Your veterinarian might have a person that just lost their bird and they know is a wonderful home, and your bird might thrive there. Perfect example is my friend Rick. He was from my bird club days back in the 90s. Great friend, was always there for me. And actually, that is my father's bird, Bubba, sitting on his shoulder. And Rick is up in New York State, and I'm down here in South Carolina. And I got a message from his veterinarian asking to reach out, and I did. And I found out that he was in the hospital and the birds were at the house by themselves up in New York around Christmas time. So it was not a good scenario. He didn't have family to help. I asked for help with people I knew up there, but no one was willing to help. So my husband was telling me, take the truck, go up and get the birds, drive up. So you're talking, 14 hours up there to get to the birds, hopefully get in the house, and then 14 hours back home. I put out an emergency birdie train call for people on my Gray page, and Rick was loved by many people. And these are some of the people that came together. You have Evie with the red hair, and she actually drove from, I believe it was Maryland, up to New York, got the birds, okay, because the birds were in the house in the winter by themselves, and I knew he used space heaters to keep the birds warm. Space heaters weren't on, and they were looking at a nor'easter coming in. So she drove up there to get the birds. And then she ended up meeting with Diane with the dark hair, and Diane took them in. And eventually what happened, because again, we had a birdie train, we had to have people coming from all over. Diane came down by me. And then my friend Lucille, she came up from Texas, and we met, and she ended up taking the 2 birds in. These people just, saved me and these birds, because I was willing to go up there and get those birds. That was my dad's bird, and the other gray I also placed with him. So it was my responsibility to make sure they were taken care of, and these people helped me. So we have come to the end. I hope you've learned something. Again, I'm sure there's a lot that I missed because there's so many do's and don'ts, but these were some of the important ones that kept popping in my head. So thank you all for being here. And
Wow. Yeah, with the birdie train, that's a really touching story. People coming together. My gosh. Wow. That's amazing.
I I was
Amazing.
desperate. I did nothing but sit there and cry for probably 2 days straight because I didn't know what to do. And he had other birds, and for some reason, the other birds were taken out of the house, but the grays were left there.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, so yeah, I'm very thankful for them.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's yeah, I have an elderly neighbor who has a lovebird who lives by himself, and I was like, if here's my number, if you ever have to, anything just I can it's very easy for me to go over there and just, it's just nice to have. Boy, that's an amazing just like the birdie train. I love that. It's a
Right.
great
And see, that's the important thing. That's the thing we're missing now with the invention of the internet. Now, when I had a bird club in North Jersey, um, we had people from so many different counties and actually from Pennsylvania and New York as well. But we knew each other. We knew what we had, and we knew we could count on each other. We had each other's phone numbers, we had each other's addresses. So if somebody needed something, we're a phone call away. Now with the
yeah.
internet, with everybody being an expert and no physical going to a place or meeting your neighbor, if people on the internet are not necessarily going to jump up and be your best friend. And like I said, I just found out there's an African gray next town over from me on the
Oh,
internet.
yeah, yeah,
Had I known, I would have been there. Maybe my webinar would have been cut a little bit short, um, but it would have been for a good cause
yeah,
and everybody would understand. So hopefully I'll hear back from her. And it's just that's
yeah.
why you need hand to hand and people meeting in real life.
No, for sure. We'll wish that gray the best. Hopefully, a good outcome. Question that we do have. Let's see if you can answer. Do you have time for? We'll have time for one question. How's that? Because it's kind of timely. Pun intended. It's daylight savings times rapidly approaching. Someone wants to know, how do you manage the time change for your birds? Do you do anything different? Is there anything that you notice different when we fall back or spring?
Um, Not necessarily with my guys, to tell you the truth. I'm sure I'll see more as we get closer to, 5:30 being dark versus 9:30 being dark here. But I have pretty much automatic lights that come on. That's not necessarily recommended when you're going through hormone season, which my guys are right now. But I haven't really noticed all that much. They might want to go to bed a little bit earlier than say normal. Wake up time is usually the same, and then they kind of just get on that schedule as well.
Okay. I'm guessing also there's probably like our behavior is probably more noticeable. Like, hey, they're not getting up yet. Like we're an hour behind getting up. Like, hey, where's my human at? Like
Well,
they're
exactly.
sleeping
Like with
still.
my guys, I'll take them out at night and they get fed all their vegetables on their tree. So, they might get a little bit more noisier because I'm looking at the clock saying, 7 o'clock, it's really 8 o'clock. And their timing, they're saying, "Hey, I'm hungry. You're late with dinner." I'm thinking, "Why are you so noisy?" Because it's only 7 o'clock. So,
Yeah. Probably that first week. I mean, it feels like we all adjust at some point, right?
right. Yes.
Okay, well. Then we got another big adjustment next Friday because it's gonna be Halloween, so people are gonna have their doorbells being rung and knocked on, and just that's gonna be an interesting thing if you have parrots or birds that are indoors ear, range, like
Right.
the trick or
Are you ha-
treaters.
are you ha- are you having a webinar next week?
We are okay. Thank you for asking because I was going to announce this. Yeah, we're going to be on next Friday with Dr. Tully. And I'm pretty certain he's going to wear a costume. I might wear one. Anyone who's going to, hopefully, people who are here today will join us for Ask the Vet next Friday, and maybe dress up. Maybe we'll try to put cameras on our audience for our attendees for a little bit because it's Halloween and we're doing a webinar. And yeah, Dr. Tully is usually game for shenanigans like that. So I'm sure last time I think it was like well, it wasn't actually on Halloween, but he did his whole webinar wearing a mask, and I was like, if you go back and watch the recording, if you don't have any context behind that, it seems kind of funny. So yes,
Well,
to
I
answer.
I will send you a picture of my costume for you to share. Last year I was a
Nice.
parrot, and everybody told me that, well, it's not an African gray. That's not right. So I had an African gray costume made. So I'll send you a picture.
Wow. Okay, okay. So we'll reveal it next Friday on Halloween. So I can't wait to see it. African gray one. That's nice. Okay, I hope you go out all day in it, like from morning to, nighttime. So get the most use of the being. And oh my gosh, you gotta tell us how your grays react to seeing you as a gray.
Yeah, they haven't seen it yet.
They'll be like,
So
wait. Oh, that's funny. Okay. All right. That was a fabulous. That was a really good do's and don'ts. I mean, really, really helpful. And once again, Lisa, you always put together these fabulous PowerPoints. I know a lot of work goes into that. Um, and Michiko, let's see, who is our daily winner? We got our giveaway. We got our giveaway winner for today's webinar. And drum roll, please. Let's see if we can get that. Going. And also, of course, oh, there we go. Okay, there's Michiko, behind the scenes, Michiko. There she is.
I, I messaged it to you, but I forgot, so let me look it up really quick.
All right, I'll let you announce it this time.
I'll announce it. Hold on. Oh, Jill Simpson.
Yay, Jill. Woo. So Jill, you're gonna get, what are we giving out today? I think you can guess.
It's the pumpkin spice Nutriberries along with another Nutriberries of your choice.
There you go. Okay, talk about all, I wouldn't even say I'll say no tricks, only treats, but these aren't treats necessarily, although, the full diet, but they're also something that birds think are treats. So it's kind of like tricking them into thinking they're eating something that they're not. I mean, anyways, you know what I'm talking about, right? Birds love these. My birds love them. Your birds love them. All of our birds will. So hopefully that makes your weekend.
Yeah. You had a pumpkin Nutriberries experience before the webinar.
Yeah, my kayak friend walked straight into the bag, disappeared into the bag of Nutriberries that was laying down to grab the last Nutriberry, pumpkin spice Nutriberry, retrieved it, and walked backwards to come out with the victory of having the last pumpkin spice Nutriberry in the bag.
Backwards walk.
Backwards walk, yeah. It was. I wish I caught it on video, but it was. I just watched in awe as we were prepping for this webinar. So I know I'm out. I gotta get. No, I have another bag, so he'll be ready for later. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Can I
Yes.
ask for one thing? The Q&A, can somebody send me those questions and the people who asked them their email so I could reach out, because there was kind of an important one.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Look at Lisa. She's like going the extra mile always. Like wants to make sure. That's just to show you how much our guests care about our birds and us. So thank you, Lisa. Yes, we will. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys. On that note, I'm going to wish everyone a fabulous weekend. All the best to you and your flock. Thanks for joining us. Until next time.